Caution. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to WiseWorld Carnival!
There's my handsome son. Madeline rushes to embrace my husband, leaving me standing awkwardly in the doorway holding a bundt cake. My goodness, sorry, Candace, drawls Madeline insincerely. You know, dear, you should really eat some more. It's like you're not even there. Her intent is clear, but I'm long used to it. It's no secret that Harvey's mother hates me. Since the day we met, Madeline has made her feelings about me as clear as one can with passive-aggressive jabs. Having adequately dressed me down, Madeline's attention turns to the ragged figure behind us. Oh, this is Ike from the local homeless shelter, I chime in. Sharing our blessings with the less fortunate is so rewarding, Madeline. And what better way to share than Thanksgiving? Madeline's mouth curls in a stilted smile. Clearly, she isn't pleased about having a vagrant intrude on her fancy dinner party, but her veneer of southern hospitality wins out, and she begrudgingly welcomes Ike inside. You remember not to add nuts, right? Harvey asks Madeline quietly as we file into the dining room. Candace didn't bring her EpiPen and... Of course, darling, Madeline laughs back nonchalant. I'd never risk my daughter-in-law's life. Confronted by the assortment of salads, casseroles, and a huge turkey laid out before him, Ike's eyes grew wide in wonder. Unable to contain himself, he immediately sits and begins piling food onto his plate, shoveling into his mouth as if it could disappear at any moment. Please don't mind him, I apologize. The poor man hasn't eaten since last Thursday. Once more, Madeline masks her obvious disdain with a half-hearted smile. Over the following minutes, Madeline's words of grace were punctuated by the guttural sounds of Ike eating and, Wait! I cry before anyone can lift their cutlery. Something's wrong with Ike! In the time it has taken us to give thanks, a thick sweat has formed over Ike and drenched his tattered clothes. Horrified, Guest watches Ike begins violently convulsing, struggling to breathe through swollen lips. Harvey springs to action and instantly dials for an ambulance. Meanwhile, I notice that Madeline is trembling with rage. From across the table, she fixes me with a steady, unbreaking glare. It's the look of someone who knows they've been outsmarted. When I said I enjoy sharing with the homeless, I wasn't lying. Indeed, I share many things with my new friend Ike, including an allergy to nuts. It was 2 days before Thanksgiving, and Danny was fulfilling his annual duty of driving his parents to his sister's house just outside of Spokane, Washington. He dreaded this 6-hour trek every year, and his parents' constant backseat driving. It seemed at least one thing had to go wrong on every road trip, and it just so happened that the first mistake on this trip was Danny taking a wrong turn, which sent them down a long, deserted, 2-lane road with nothing but thick, ominous forest on either side. Since the family didn't know how long it would be until they got back on the main road, they made a unanimous decision to stop at a lone rest area to use the restrooms. As they got out of the car to stretch their legs, Danny looked over to see the only other vehicle at the rest stop, a large pickup truck that was parked a few spaces down, with a burly, bearded man sitting in the driver's seat. After Danny had finished his business in the restroom, he walked back out to where he had parked. His parents seemed to have been taking their time, so he decided to look around, while at the same time distract himself from the overwhelming sense of dread the mysterious stranger in the pickup truck was causing him. Before he knew it, he heard his car door slam shut and turned to see his parents waiting for him. With everyone ready to go, Danny started down the long stretch of road as darkness consumed everything around them. That was until two bright lights came blasting behind him. It was the truck from the rest stop, flashing his light beams and honking his horn as if it was the end of days. Danny found it strange that his parents remained calm and quiet despite the nerve-wracking situation. He rolled down his window and motioned for him to pass, but the monstrous truck continued with its harassment. Finally, Danny pulled over, got out, and started yelling at the truck driver who had pulled over behind him. The bearded man exited his truck in a hurry and ran towards Danny. Almost out of breath, the heavy-set man grabbed Danny by the shoulders in a distressed voice says, "Those people that got in your car weren't the same ones that went to the restrooms. I saw them come from the woods." Before Danny can even comprehend what the man was trying to say, he heard the car door open, followed by the sounds of footsteps rapidly retreating back into the dark forest that surrounded them. Uncle Teddy is obsessed with alien abductions, which makes Thanksgiving fun. He found a new way to jam the subject into an entirely different conversation. I was talking about how good the zucchini was. Aunt Maya said she grew it in her backyard. Then the lights went on under Uncle Teddy's bushy brows. "I was in my backyard when it happened," he began. "Sure you were," I thought, unfortunately already familiar with the story. "It was the most terrifying experience of my life," he continued. "Yeah, I bet it was." I twirled my mashed potatoes. He recounted the story loudly to a chorus of groans from the rest of the family. He gave a play-by-play recap of blinding lights, chrome spaceships, and, of course, sharp probes. The aliens had razor-sharp teeth, ferocious appetites, mind control powers, and could shapeshift into horrifying creatures. They berated him with questions and threats until finally dropped him back in his bed. At the table, eyes rolled, and someone turned up the volume to the football game, louder and louder until everyone's attention was back on the television. Uncle Teddy gave up in a huff, folding his arms across his chest, obviously feeling there was more to tell. "What do you think they wanted?" I asked him quietly, so that only he can hear. He hit the table emphatically, making the plates shake. "To study me, of course. Then, probably take over the world." I nodded, deciding to indulge him. "Why you?" "I asked that myself," Uncle Teddy said, nodding sagely. "Did you change afterwards? Become a better person?" I asked, chewing thoughtfully and reaching for the yams. "What kind of question is that?" Uncle Teddy huffed. "What were you doing in your backyard in the middle of the night?" I helped myself to another few servings of turkey. "They lured me out there," he said, matter-of-factly. "Oh, okay, so you weren't, spying on your neighbors, taking a shower, and getting into trouble or anything. You didn't do that for years until you couldn't crawl into the bushes anymore," I said through a bite of mashed potatoes. He went pale. Of course not." He adjusted his glasses so vigorously that they fell off into the gravy. He wiped them with the napkin with shaking hands. "How could you even ask that?" "Maybe there's still time, to be a better person," I continued, undeterred, buttering another 2 rolls, "before they come back and take over the world." What do you mean?" Uncle Teddy looked ready to lose his dinner. "Well, the abductions didn't really seem to have that much an effect on people. I guess they would try something else to shake things up before they settle in." I held Uncle Teddy's gaze, carefully picking at my food stuck between my canines, wondering If he'd realized he didn't recognize me from last Thanksgiving. He stood up with shaking legs, heading for the door. I was just messing with him, of course. There was no time.